everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Just Another Autism Podcast. Today, we're going to be doing things a little differently. As you might know, February is Black History Month, and we have a special host with us, GW. You might be familiar with GW. He's done a couple of series for us on social media. He's great influencer and entrepreneur. And he's going to be rocking it today. So please welcome GW.
Eileen, as always, it's a pleasure to be talking with you, and I can't wait to be talking with Josh. It's going to be fun. I've read about his story, an Iraq war veteran, and I just think it's so amazing what autistic people can do and accomplish. And from a fellow advocate to another, I just completely, I look forward, simply put it, to hearing his story, getting it firsthand, face to face, or in this case, Zoom to Zoom. And with that said, let's get this done. I'm excited. I can't wait to hear it. Well, Joshua, I just wanted to first and foremost, I just wanted to say thank you very much for being on the air with me and being on this call and recording this podcast. I think it's very important, your story. I've read about it and, I was moved and very pleased to hear what you've been through, your challenges, and now you're facing a new challenge, but also a big blessing in being a parent of a child with autism. I think it's something that's very inspiring and beautiful and special. And without further ado, I wanted to get into it and ask you if you could share your journey as a parent of a child with autism and what some of the biggest challenges were that you faced early on.
First, thanks for giving me this opportunity to speak. I've been advocating ever since I found out. I think my journey started. I was in Iraq, and my wife had called, and well, I called her because she can't call, and she said, something's going on with our daughter. I'm like, well, what's going on? She said the doctor says she has autism. My daughter was 18 months diagnosed. I was just getting out of the war and transitioning. So I had a lot of transitions. A transition to a new parent, transitioning from the war, transitioning to civilian. And unfortunately, at that time, my wife and I were going through a divorce. So that's another transition. So we were going through a lot at this critical time in my life. Here I am, now divorced, single parent dad with an autistic girl. So my whole life just changed dramatically, just like that. We move up here, I get a job, I transition out, and of course, like any other parent, I need childcare. So I got a job, looking for childcare, and I can't find any childcare. And for the first time in my life, uh, I had found out what discrimination really was. My daughter was being discriminated against, not because she was a woman or a girl or because of the color of her skin. She was being discriminated against because she had autism. They said, we can't take her. We don't have anybody that's trained and we don't have a liability. Um, I found some childcare. The Army had this program called like an ECHO program, which they might still have today. So this is what the Army said we're going to do. We're going to get programs. We're going to do stuff for you. But nobody knew what they were doing, but they had to do something. So um, as I'm taking her to these meetings to see different doctors and stuff, I realized that some of the doctors, they were uh, they were testing her for this, testing her for that, and they were trying to find a cure to autism. And what I was telling them was that I need care. No one's caring for her. I need, I need stuff for her and there's nothing here. I was like, no, my daughter's not a test subject. I had to go, get that part. So now things are okay. And then something dramatic happens. My daughter had been getting all the ABA therapy, the speech, the OT, the PT, all that stuff in school. And because she has an IEP, she can repeat a grade because she can stay in longer. So because she was in such a great program that we found for her at the school, we wanted to keep her extra year. Well, apparently that year, her teacher went and got her master's degree, which is great. But she came back to the school system and she had asked them for more money because, she got a master's, she should get paid more. She's a special needs teacher and she was great. And the county could not pay her. So she left the county. And when she left the county, they could not replace her. So my daughter went a whole year, her and her 6 students went a whole school year with 2 teachers' aides teaching them for the whole year. So I was so angry because I had such a great program and the teacher left. She had a right to leave. She deserved. It's a hard job, but they couldn't find a job. So I went down to the school board and complained. I went down to Richmond, the capital, Virginia, to the House of Delegates, and I complained to my representative that this is not right. That y'all need to have more funding for kids, and that's how the next part of my life started. June 11th, 2015, I announced that I was running for state delegate, and I ran for office. And I complained, I stumped, I marched, and I advocated, and I got to the end of the race in the general, and I lost by like 128 votes against a veteran, Republican that year. But my goal wasn't really to win the race. My goal was to advocate and to make the message louder so they can ignore teachers. Because teachers, especially special needs teachers, needed that funding, and I just advocated. It wasn't about me, it was about the advocacy because this is what I'm advocating for veterans, their families. I'm a law enforcement officer by trade, so I'm out here advocating for those things that are important to me. So that's kind of how things started with me. I wasn't done yet with with politics, so I decided that I would run for a different office. So I actually ran for sheriff of my county in 2019. I noticed that law enforcement officers, uh, we spend a lot of money on guns and ammunition, millions every year, but we spend no money on training for autism or special needs. So I took it, I became a general instructor, and I started to train officers about special needs and autism specifically, about how to slow down, how to recognize the signs, how to de-escalate. Because now there's a push today for de-escalation on all levels, but especially for people with autism, which now children who are now adults. My daughter's now an adult. We needed more training, and so now there's this huge push. And I'm not saying I'm responsible for it. I'm just saying this is what I did uh, to advocate, to fight for these kids. My point, well, again, was to get the message out about law enforcement, about autism, about what happens to our children and how we have to care for them, uh, and how it breaks my heart to see people with special needs in jail and they don't belong there. Or they don't have the services in jail. Jail's not a place for a person with special needs. They need services, they need help. They don't need jail. And officers need to know that if a person with autism doesn't hear you, you need to know that there's different signs, that there's different levels, you know, uh, that my daughter is a hugger. In law enforcement, you don't let anybody get in your personal space. There's certain things that you need to know. And I say that there is more training today, but not enough. We're not there. We have not arrived. So there's still a lot of work to do. And I wasn't just advocating here in Virginia, I was advocating nationally. I was working with other nonprofits to make this national push for this, because what good is it for my daughter to be safe here in Prince William County and go to the next county and they don't have the training, or the next state? Like, this is a worldwide thing. Um, so that's why I did that. I graduated last year with my master's in public policy from George Mason. Um, and I had to get an internship to to complete my master's. It was part of the requirements. So as I'm searching for an internship, I see one for Autism Speaks, and I talked to the folks there, and they're like, "Hey, we would love to have you come in and be our intern." So I was able to intern at Autism Speaks, which is amazing because I can advocate, and I'm a big advocate. I was able to, during the internship, I was able to go down to Richmond and advocate to the delegates and senators and work with Autism Society and other organizations that were there advocating down in General Assembly. Um, and I was able to really network and learn more information there. And I was able to work with Autism Speaks in DC. They were working on reauthorizing the CARES Act, which funds, the data research and stuff for the country. And that was huge for me. I just felt like, hey, I'll do anything to help. So I was able to go into Congress, lobby, do some meetings, and meet some great people. And that's kind of how I landed here with you today. So now I'm still advocating and fighting. Um, I'm in my 18th year as a law enforcement officer. As I retire in 2 years, I'm going to be full time advocating somewhere with someone because this is my life work. I've been doing it for so long.
Well, first of all, Joshua, I just wanted to, say many congratulations to you and your efforts. From what you've told me, in my head, there's a lot to unwrap. I think the first thing that comes to mind is that, the majority of single parents at least in the US are single moms. So your case is very rare, but also very inspiring of how, given that there's more single moms than single dads in the country, you were a single dad. And you not only were you a single dad, you were a single dad raising an autistic kid who was diagnosed at a very young age. And her name is Jocelyn, right?
Jocelyn, yes,
Jocelyn. And what age was she diagnosed? What age was it?
18 months.
18 months. And that diagnosis is very rare and unusual because, given the fact that women are diagnosed with autism a lot later than guys are, that was not only, especially back in the mid 2000s, that was that was probably a very significant change for you as a parent, especially one who was overseas fighting in one of the wars that were going on at the time. Now what year was she diagnosed? Not her age, but what year was it?
2005.
2005. That's very ironic because I was also diagnosed in 2005. I was 5 years old when I was first diagnosed. And now that your daughter is in her early 20s, and it sounds like while she may still face her challenges, it sounds like she's starting to join your journey and advocate and have success in life as I have started to advocate and do roughly the same things, following along the same lines as her and you and your family. Another thing that really stands out to me is that this was all going on when you were fighting overseas. And this was at a time, I mean, there were some people back in the mid 2000s who knew what autism was, but there wasn't as much as there is today. At least probably not in your area of Virginia, but overall it wasn't as well known as it is now 20 years later. So the thing is that when you mix that with the challenges of being a parent and the fact that you had doctors trying to find a cure, and as we all know, there's no cure for autism. That's already been proven, and there's no vaccine for autism that will ever come to light or ever come to fruition. What was very powerful and stuck out to me is you said, I don't want a vaccine or a cure. I want my daughter to be taken care of. As a parent, that's what I want. I want care. And, answering all the questions that we had is that, it shows you how much of that you're not only are you passionate, but you do this because you care for your daughter, you care for your family. And given that it's Black History Month, we all have to be there together and fight this together. So with that said, what are some key autism related bills or policies you're currently advocating for? I know you already named a few, but what are some other autism bills or policies?
So, well, there's one that they've been pushing for, for the care. We need more funding for teachers, uh, because there's this high turnover rate, for them, and not enough people getting trained. So what they're trying to find some, I don't know the numbers, the house number or the bills, but more funding for those schools to make a pipeline. And the thing about it, the issue is, it's really not about the money. The people don't want to do it's a hard job. It's a hard job. And they don't, it's sitting down with teachers and talking with them. They don't, uh they feel like they do a lot more and with less, and they need more now. So that's like one of the biggest things. The other thing is care. My daughter right now, she gets a home health care nurse, right? Through a waiver, right? And they don't get paid much. They don't get a lot of training, and they need stuff. And when they get sick, they need paid sick leave. So my wife is fighting for that, paid sick leave, because everybody needs rest. Like you can't be worried about your paycheck while you're trying to, care for someone else. So just those two things alone, uh, would be helpful. The huge challenge that I'm seeing right now is that, even if insurance covers these things, there's not enough providers, right?
Mhm.
I'm on the board for the Arc of Virginia, so they do Prince William Arc of Virginia, uh, the Arc of Prince William, and we have housing, but we don't have anybody to work the house, right? That's the issue. This is what we need, because now we have a nation of children who are now adults who need care, respite care, and everything you could think of, and no one trained to do these jobs. So that's what we're really advocating for now. And maybe my child won't benefit from it, but the children coming behind her will. But if we don't build those facilities, build those things, get this funding for these teachers, we're not going to have any. And we're already short teachers now for that aren't special needs. You know what I mean? So that's where I am now.
So what advice do you have for parents then who want to get involved in policy change but just don't know where to start?
So I think everything's local. I would always start locally with your. We have accountable supervisors, your local CSB, just speaking with them, and they'll tell you what they need and what they're missing. Well, we have this stuff, but we don't have the funding. So then, who gets the funding? Then you need to go to the next level, right? Um, and then go to your state representative. Then your state representative, well, we have this, but we need more funding. Then guess what? You might need to talk to your congressman or woman, right? This is what we need. They work for us, and we need to go to them. And I was, like I said, I was fortunate with Autism Speaks to be able to go down, and speak with some legislators there, on the state. I spoke with people on the state, local level, and the federal level on these issues. And it's a lot of bipartisanship, which is great, because autism reaches everyone, not just here in the US, but worldwide. So definitely, start local, because that's where it all comes down to, and just get involved. And I know uh, it's frustrating. I've given up and started over again. I've given up and started over again. I call it taking a break, because you will go to these meetings and they will give you all this information, right? You sign up for all these forms to get to a meeting, and then they get to the meeting, and then the frustrating part is now they have you on a wait list because there's no one to do the service. So you go through all these changes to get there, and there's no provider, because you have the waiver, but what gives a waiver is going to work. So when you hit that wall, is what I call it, you have to just take a break, and I did, because I deserve it. Like, you're fighting, right? And as you go, you will see other parents, and you'll know that look because you have that look in your eye, and they know when you see them, you will know, um, and you can help someone else. And that's how we do it. We help each other, because it is a long road, and I've been doing it for so long. It's just a part of my DNA at this point. So don't give up. We got to keep going.
Yeah, and what you said right there, don't give up. We got to keep going. It hits very close to home. And for me, I faced so many challenges as an autistic individual. I don't think I ever mentioned this at the start of our talk today, but I'm originally from Arizona. You're from the eastern part of the country. I'm from the Southwest. And growing up in Arizona, while I do admit I was very fortunate enough and privileged to have had some of the resources available to me to help cope with my autism, and I had enough of those outreach services that my parents fought like hell to get for me. I do also acknowledge that not all autistic parents and even just autistic people, autistic kids in general, have had that fortunate privilege that I've had. And it's really inspired me as an advocate to step into other advocate shoes and just other autistic children's and autistic parents' shoes, just like yours, Joshua, that when your daughter needed care, you didn't have the resources. So what did you have to do? You had to fight for them. And while there's still a lot of work to be done, you've not you've not you've not given up. I mean, you said that there have been times where you've sometimes had to throw up your hands, but then you had to roll up your sleeves and get back to work.
Yeah, most definitely.
But also what hits home to me is that, with starting local, I went to Washington State University. I got a broadcast news degree. One of the biggest things that I learned, at least, is that local leaders, local news is so much more important in your local community than national news or national leaders ever will. At least in my opinion and from what I
Yeah,
studied in
I
my
agree.
degree.
Yes.
So when you talk about starting local, it it helps me want to ask myself, how can I, as a Black autistic adult, get more involved locally with my leaders to help get legislation on the table that can help autistic people who are underrepresented in my community out here in Oregon, and then therefore it can help your community in Virginia. So, with that said, I just wanted to, I think we got a message that I guess the recording's about to stop, but I just wanted to say, it's been such an honor and privilege to meet with you today, Joshua. And if you have any closing remarks, I would love to hear it. And just like Joshua said, just keep going, don't give up, and, keep being inspired. But I'll let you kind of close things out, Joshua.
Well, again, thanks a lot for having me. I'll come back as many times as I have. I'm still fighting, so fight with me. But we have to do it together. It's going to take everyone. They say it takes a village. We need a couple of villages, okay? But we just have to keep going. I mean, I've been doing this for so long, and I just want to make sure that before I leave this earth, that I leave it better for all people who have disabilities, especially folks with autism.